plus since 2004 when Sam Cassell and Kevin Garnett achieved defeat. So they were rolling, the T-Wolves are rolling, and they have a commanding 3-1 lead heading back to Minnesota Wednesday night for Game 5, and we'll dive into it here on Toyota Warriors Postgame Live with the Hall of Famer Chris Bullen, the pride of Yale, Zena Keita, and NBA champion Festus Ezeli. I am Bonte Hill. Warriors holding on to a 2-point lead at the half, Fezzi. And then that man took over with a monster third quarter. The T-Wolves, really, that's when they won the game.
This was a must-win game for the Warriors because they didn't want to go down 3-1. But if you watch the second half of this game, it was the Timberwolves that looked like it was a must-win for them. Because Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle, with a show that they put on in the second half, matter of fact, through the whole game, but what they did in that second half, defensively and offensively, look about the third quarter. They scored 39 points. And on the other hand, they hold the Warriors to 17 points. Now I get it, Steph Curry is not playing tonight, but the Warriors were up by 2 at half, and it just seemed like the Timberwolves got every rebound, and they just made every shot. They got really comfortable offensively.
Of course, everyone's going to look to Anthony Edwards as being the killer with that 16-point third quarter. Now, that's 2 third quarters in a row where Anthony Edwards shows up, breaks out 15 points or more. But it's also Julius Randle. When you look at his on-off tonight, when he's off the floor, the offensive rating for the Wolves, just 88. When he's on the floor, 125. They will beat anybody with that number. And Julius Randle is the person kind of galvanizing it all. And, of course, Edwards is eating it up.
About you mentioned the end of the first half, the Warriors had a 5-point lead. Ant-Man comes into a 3-point shot, and you could tell his confidence grew. And then that carried over to the third quarter. Fezzi mentions the score, 39-17. But look at the numbers. They shot 65% from the field. 50 from 3.
What else, Mully?
100 from the free throw line.
Let him know. Let him know.
And they had 11 assists.
Yikes.
So the end of the half, we always talk about closing quarters, and you can see Ant-Man kind of looked at the Warriors like, oh, I got this. Yeah, I'm starting to, and the Warriors, you know, they a valiant effort to have that lead. And we were talking, Zena, we were watching the game together, sitting in that zone for too long. Yep. You know, for a while, it looked like it was working. The Timberwolves couldn't find their rhythm. Once they found their rhythm, getting the ball to the middle, sharing it, getting to the rim, all of a sudden, that zone fell apart. And that's where Minnesota really, as you said about that, now they won the game, they found their rhythm and got their confidence across the board.
Yeah, they were up 20 at the end of the third quarter there, and the Warriors had no hope there in the fourth quarter. It's Anthony Edwards, the man on a mission. He's a young superstar in this league, the future face of this league, and you see why. He has a full package, folks. He could go to the cup, he could dunk on your head, or he could pull up from 3. He goes 6 of 11 from the three-point line, and we've been saying all series long he hasn't had that game yet. Now, I know he scored 28 of 36 in the second half in Game 3, but it still felt like he could take his game to another level. Well, he did that tonight, Fez. He fell 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, 30 points. Turned the ball over 3 times. That's the only blemish on this game, but he has the full package, Fezzi.
Bonte, the offense for the Minnesota Timberwolves have gotten better every game, and there's no coincidence that Anthony Edwards himself is also getting better. You see him way more controlled now, getting to the rim. You talk about his strength, but that third quarter was all Anthony Edwards. 6 for 8 from the field, 16 points. All that was him leading the charge for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And if you were going to win this game, you got to win it on the defensive end, like Steve Kerr keeps saying. And they just had no answer for Anthony Edwards all night.
The problem with Anthony Edwards is that he can do those tangible things out on the court, get you those buckets, get you those momentum on the scoreboard. But I was sitting in that tunnel. It's the energy he brings. As he came out, Mike Conley dapping him up, Julius Randle dapping him up, his whole team patting his head, and he's in there talking, and he's hyping them up, and that is so energizing, and that is exactly the fuel that Minnesota needed for the second half.
Yeah, that's a great point, because he is the superstar, the next face of this league, but he almost plays a bit of a backseat to start the game to Julius Randle, right? Julius Randle gets going, so to have 2 guys get 30, that takes sharing. And a lot of it is putting your ego in check, but there's no question when the game's on the line whose team this is. But I think he's done a great job for a young guy. That's great, being a great teammate, but it's also a great form of leadership for a young, great player.
Well, Zena, you bring up the swag. When he hit that 3 before halftime, he stared down Draymond Green and GP2 saying, I'm here, I'm coming out in the second half, and I'm putting this one away, knowing that Stephen Curry may not be available until Game 6, Fezzi. So he played with desperation, as well as Julius Randle. I'm so impressed with Julius Randle. The knock on him in this coming into the postseason, ISO player, not a team guy. looks for he's been looking for everything. And he's had a dynamic series. Again, first game with 30 points this postseason, but really, he's been doing it all. The 23 assists in games 2 and 3 combined. Tonight, 3 assists for 5 rebounds. And he set a tone in that first half, Fezzi.
Yeah, you definitely need a double team for Julius Randle because he was getting everything he wanted. Do you want him to get it from the three-point line? 4 for 8. Do you want him to go one-on-one with any of your defenders? He is getting to that cup. It didn't matter who it was. He's just a mismatch for the Warriors lineup because the Warriors are small and you're going against Julius. One of the things they try to do is they try to put TJD on him, to put some size on him. TJD got some quick fouls, got the hook by Steve Kerr. Then he goes back to Draymond, goes to Jimmy, throwing all these different bodies on Julius, but he is in shape. This second half of the season, Julius Randle is healthy. Yep. He looks like he's in shape, and he's just giving the Warriors all they can handle right now in this series.
Chris Finch said it best after Game 3. He is our playmaker. He has become so integral to everything they do. And it's not just offense. I just talked about those those offense numbers. It's the defense, too. The Timberwolves are better on defense when he's on the floor versus off, which is not the case for Anthony Edwards. They actually get better when he's sitting on the bench. With Julius Randle, you talk about him being in shape, he can guard just about anybody. So not only is he a mismatch on offense, he's a problem on defense, too.
Saw that in the first round against Luka Doncic. He was trying to Luka on the perimeter.
Yes.
Well, I think that's a great point, Zena, because a lot of people go back to the team that he came from, the New York Knicks. Now, he had a great few seasons in New York, strictly an ISO player, and I think he got somewhat of a rep of being exclusively that. Chris Finch coached him in New Orleans, and he knew him as a playmaker. So he saw something that maybe other people around the league did not see. I agree, Fezzi. He's lean. He's in great physical condition, but Chris Finch's belief in him that he can be a playmaker. Much like with Jimmy Butler, it's a fine line of playing isolation basketball and getting the team involved. Tonight they play 8 guys, 5 guys in double figures, and for an ISO team, they went up getting 23 assists. The Warriors, who historically a ball movement team, comes away with 18 assists. We talked about those numbers. When
they ended up getting 18? Well, when I left the
3 and
game,
12.
it was 10 assists into the third quarter, which is not, there's not anything you want from the Warriors.
And we talked about the numbers before the game. When they were under 23, they were 3 and 11.
Right.
Now, the 3 and 11 is a bad record, but the fact that it only happened 14 times. So that's not their style of play. Now they're 3 and 12. So that ball movement for guys for role players, they need that ball movement to have some rhythm in the game. When it's an ISO basketball game and it's not your style, I think Minnesota's much more comfortable playing that way. But when they're really good, the ball moves just enough where everyone's involved.
Julius Randle, what a special series. He's having a special postseason for Julius Randle, the guy who was drafted by the LA Lakers. But Jonathan Kuminga, want to talk picks. Jonathan Kuminga has resurfaced in this series. Game 2, 18 points, made his first 8 field goals. Obviously in Game 3, had a 30-burger. Tonight, he started rolling 11 to 12 from the free throw line. We talk about Eric Congo. Now, the biggest mystery is how did he pick up so many DNPs during this postseason? Well, he's showing that he's more than able to play at this level. 23 and 29 minutes, Zena. Third game with 20-plus points in this postseason.
And 11 of 12 from the free throw line. That is exactly why you need Jonathan Kuminga, especially in an athletic series with size on the opposite side of the ball. Jonathan Kuminga is the only person that is capable of consistently pressure the rim like that, because guess what? Not only is he aggressive in offense, not only is he able to get in there, cut, use that hezzy that he was using beautifully, especially in the first half, he's also young. He's got the energy to be able to sustain that throughout the game. And, we've seen, Jimmy get gassed towards the end of the games, and that's where Jonathan Kuminga can still produce and get into the paint.
It is so impressive, Zena, that JK did not play for a lot of the playoffs. And he's been asked right now to come into the game to be the offensive punch for the Warriors. And with that, he's come in and he's done just that. He's been able to score. He's getting to the free throw line, like you said. He's getting to the paint. He's doing a bunch of different things. But how do you get into rhythm like this? That's a lot of work that you're putting in on the side when you're not in the game. This is just the hard work showing for JK. But the Warriors, they're playing a different style of basketball right now with JK and Jimmy Butler at the helm. This is a different style of basketball. This is a one-on-one ISO, really not a lot of passes, not a lot of ball movement. So it's trying to see if Jimmy Butler and Jonathan Kuminga can beat Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle.
Yeah, and to me, as a player, you always want to go into every game, play to your strengths, stay away from your weaknesses. And I think with Jonathan Kuminga, you need to understand what his strengths are and cater to them. and be okay with some mistakes. But again, Bonte, we talk pregame when he gets 30 minutes. So tonight he gets 29 minutes. He puts up those numbers. Now, and look, it's not just about Jonathan trying to fit that in with the 5-player combination, but there's no doubt about his talent, his ability to score, and maybe, like Zena said, he's 22 years old.
Yep.
This guy's got an incredible career ahead of him.
You know, the difference I noticed in this game was that Minnesota has guys who could blow by their guy off the dribble. The Warriors, too many times, they can't blow by anybody.
He can.
Shot clock violations. He's the one guy who can't do it on this team. Everybody else is getting grenade balls.
I don't know about you, but also tonight it looked like he was really under control. He had the blow-by speed, but he was playing slow in the paint, looking for plays. I thought he played another